Hello learners, I am Dr. Subodh Kisharwani working with Indira Gandhi National Open University in School of Management Studies. The topic which I am going to talk today is small and large... Sir, Rajesh sir. Hello learners, I am Dr. Subodh Kisharwani working with Indira Gandhi National Open University in School of Management Studies. The topic which I am going to talk today is small and large sample. We have thought-provoking sessions which focused on the sampling, and now we are more talking about small and large sample. So prior to going into the depth of this topic, I just want to throw a light that why there is a need of sampling, because we have seen in our preceding session that sampling is something which is a very important affair, and when you are going to do a research, when you are going to do a statistics, I think, and extracting information from the population, sample is something which is a very important ingredient. So sampling is done because you usually cannot gather data from the entire population. Even relatively small population, the data may be needed urgently, and including everyone in the population in your data collection may take too long. So that could be the reason I think the sampling is going to play a very important role. And if you go into a backdrop, you will find out that we have a population, we have a target population, we have a sampling frame, and then we have a sampling process. So what you actually study, as far as the sample is concerned, as far as inference is concerned, because statistical inference, we have two types of statistics, that is descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. So if we talk about the descriptive statistics is more focused on the stereotype approach, that is method of center tendency, and as far as the inferential statistics is concerned, it is purely based on the assumptions. So either you talk about the hypothesis or you talk about this different way of doing the things. This is where there is a great use of sampling. And as far as the sampling frame is concerned, we have seen that what you want to study, what you actually study. So when we make a sampling frame, we have a bent of mind that what you want to study, and when we make a sample is just narrow down ourselves and try to focus what actually we want to study. So today discussion talks more about small and large sample. We have already have a very thought-provoking session which focus on the sampling, and then we have a session on methods of sampling. So if we go into the backdrop of method of sampling, we come to know that either it could be the random sample or non-random sample or probability sampling or non-probability sampling. But since we are moving towards in a higher side, now just focusing on the testing or executing the statistics, so small and choosing the small and large sample is quite important and going to play a very important role. So when the sample size is too small, it fails to detect the difference, and when the sample size is too big, it's waste of resources, the cost is going to be involved, and which has no practical importance. Because if you are going to talk about the statistics or the inferential statistics, I think taking a large sample is something which is a very important affair, because and then there is a great use of statistical component which we are going to use in the coming sessions, because we have got a certain test, either it could be the jet test or F test, or the one tail two tail test, or the type 1 error or type 2 errors are there. So all these things going to talk more about the sampling, and we have to talk more about determining appropriate sample size. So what exactly, how we are going to determine the appropriate sample size, how precise do you want to be, and if the sample size is smaller, I think fairly precise result is there, and if you are taking a large sample, I think you are very precise, but somewhere the cost is going to be involved and it's required cost. So how sure you want to be of your answer if you are going to take a smaller sample size, and how much variation is there in the population you are studying, because when you want a variation in the study, I think that is where the this large sample size is going to be important, because you have going to get a good number of the responses from the respondents, and then you are going to narrow down those respondents, then you are going to accumulate all those respondents, and then finally you are able to accomplish yourself with that task. So how small of an effect do you want to be able to identify? That is moderate if you're talking about smaller sample size, and if you're talking about large sample size, it could be very small. So anyway, I think we have talked a lot about statistical analysis in our preceding sessions, and as far as this particular session is concerned, this is much focus on small and large samples, because sampling is something which is an art. So it's rather we can say it's an art or science. And if you are going to apply, if you are quite methodical, if you are quite uh, using the algorithms, or if you are going to use certain tactics, I think that is where the role of the researcher is going to play a very important role, because we have seen in our preceding sessions that what exactly we have covered and how these components or the terminology which we have used in our preceding session is going to play a very important role. So if we, that this statistical analysis is bifurcated into, as far as the test is concerned, is parametric and non-parametric test is there. And if we are going to bifurcate the parametrics, I think there are certain attributes like testing number of success, testing number of proportions, testing differences of proportion, and then variables are there. So if the small sample size n is less than or equal to 30, we go for t-test. And if we concentrate on the large sample where n is greater than or equal to 30, we are going to apply z-test, f-test, or ANOVA test, which we are going to study or which we are going to discuss in our forthcoming session. So, and if you are going to talk about the parametric or non-parametric test, it could be the chi-square test, sign test, median test, rank test, or rank sum test, which is taken care by Mann and Whitney U-test. So if you much emphasize on the parametric tests are those that make assumptions about the parameters of the population distribution from which the sample is drawn, so that the population data are normally distributed. And if we talk about the non-parametric tests are distribution free and as such can be used for non-normal variables. So this is something which is there. And prior to going into the depth of this two terminology, that is small sample, large sample, we are just recapitulating in a very faster mode that what exactly we have covered in our preceding sessions and what exactly this course is going to talk about. So this is a course which emphasizes more on the research methodology in statistical analysis, which is a combination of research and statistics. And when we go more into the research methodology, we are more talking about the business research, we are talking about the research plan, we are talking about the collection of data. We have little bit throw a light on sampling, then measurement and scaling techniques are there. Either could be the comparative scale or non-comparative scale, and then processing of data is there. So this is something which we have covered in our preamble sessions, and if the learners want, they can just recapitulate or just go through all those aspects. So, and as far as the block 2 is focusing, the block 2 much more focus on processing and preservation of data. After talking more about the curtain raiser to research and data collections, we move one step ahead, and the diagrammatic presentation, graphical presentation of data, statistical derivatives, measure of central tendency, either it could be the mean, median, and mode, and then measure of variance is there, which we have already covered in our preceding sessions. And then moving, after talking more about the processing and preservation of data, we have moved to relational and trend analysis. And this relational and trend analysis is more talking about correlation, regression, time series, and index number. And after that, the probability and hypothesis testing is there, which is something which emphasizes more on the testing, because after studying a lot, after applying all these philosophy and statistical thoughts, the time will come when you are going to test these concepts. So when the fourth block is much more emphasized on the execution, whatever we have studied, whatever we have learned in our preceding sessions, we try to apply all those philosophy and then try to conclude with the help of the certain tools. Either it could be the probability or the probability distribution or testing of hypothesis. So when we are going more into the depth of testing of hypothesis, we apply the theory of hypothesis, because hypothesis we have already studied in our preceding session, which is bifurcated into null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis. So if null hypothesis is rejected, alternate hypothesis is accepted, or vice versa. If alternate hypothesis is rejected, the null is accepted. So this is the thing. And when you are going to test the hypothesis, I think somewhere this the philosophy is going to play a very important role, because there you are going to talk more about how you are going to test the hypothesis. So either it could be the one-tail test or two-tail test, or the type 1 error or type 2 error, or the significance is there. So these are the things which we are going to study, and when you are going to talk more about the testing, either it could be the z-test or chi-square test or the f-test, the role of this sampling is quite important, because in computers, in technology, we always believe that the garbage in, garbage out is there. So whatever the data you are going to take, you are going to get the results in that manner. So if you are going to collect a wrong data, if you are having a wrong sample, you lands up at the wrong results. So how you are going to come out from all those things, that is where the understanding of a small sample and large sample need to be utmost care, and the purpose need to be done. So this is what exactly we have covered. This is part of our unit 16, and we are emphasizing more on small samples versus large sample. And this is quite important because researchers usually cannot make direct observations of every unit of the population they are studying for a variety of reasons. Instead, they collect data from a subset of population, because if you are going to take a population as a whole, as a sample, I think you will have a very, it's rather we can say it's a very cumbersome process, and cost is going to be involved, and the more cost is involved, more time is going to be governed, and in that case you are not going to get a final solution. So if you are going to get a final solution, I think somewhere you have to apply the statistical concept, the inferential statistics, and try to narrow down yourself with the right mode of taking the sample. So sample and use the observation to draw and make inferences about the entire population. So ideally the characteristics of sample should correspond to the characteristics of a population from which the sample was drawn. So that could be the reason, when we have a population at one side, then we have a target population, then we have a sample, and then we bifurcate that either we go for the large sample or small sample. We have seen that when we are going to apply the test, or when the data sample size is less than 30, we go for the t-test, and when more than that we go for various tests. So in that case the conclusion drawn from a sample are probably applicable to the entire population. And if we just fastly throw a light what exactly a sample is, and we have seen in our preceding session that when we apply the methods of sampling, either it could be the random sampling or non-random sampling, or either it could be the stratified sampling or the clustered sampling or judgmental sampling or the snowball sampling, we have seen that how we have extracted the information. If you see this particular image, I think there we have applied one of the methods of sampling, and rather than randomly select the data, we have taken one blue colors, one red colors, then again one red color, and then one green color. So the purpose is quite clear that we want a representation from all the clusters, all the group, all the strata, and then finally take the sample from under that. So this could be one of the best modus operandi, or the pedagogy rather we can say, which focus on that you could apply certain methodology. So this methods of sampling we have already covered in our preceding session, which was much more focused on that what could be the methodologies, what could be the procedures to get a sample and narrow down themselves, and then extract the information from there. Because end of the day, if you take a sample, you can send the respondents, and when the respondents reciprocates, I think somewhere then you can know what exactly the research is going on and where you are lacking and how you are going to rectify yourself. So in research terms, a sample is a group of people, objects or items that are taken from a larger population for measurement. The sample should be representative of the population to ensure that we can generalize the findings from the research sample to the population as a whole. A sample is usually a subunit within the universe. The universe consists of all the members of a distinct group, which could be called as a population, and from that universe we extract certain information. If we take this particular example, I think this whole combination is an universe, and from that we have taken certain samples. So this blue color is one of the representations from the blue segment, and red is from the red segment, and green is from the green, and that could be the size of the sample which we have taken. Now when we narrow down ourselves, we go into the depth of that, and then we can finalize the sample from there. So sample is usually a subunit. We have seen that from this blue we have taken one representation, so this could be called a subunit. And within the universe consists of all the members of a distinct group. The universe or population is also called the total collection of units from which a sample can be selected. So sampling is a process used in statistical analysis in which a predetermined number of observations are taken from a larger populations, and it's quite clear that from this larger populations we have taken one representations, and we go under the depth of that. So there are a lot of examples which we can take, and when the researchers start the research, and if they have taken Delhi as a population or universe, I think they have to first narrow down into self. So the best part is that they can first make a stratified sampling or bifurcate the Delhi into certain zones. Either it could be the north, south, east and west, and then extract certain information from each zone so that the proper representation could be there from each zone. So that could be the modus operandi which need to be followed. And if the things are going to be done in that way, I think somewhere you have follow the style of taking the sampling. So that is where the methods of sampling is quite important, because at what time or what percentage or what could be in what scenario you are going to take the sample, that need to be taken care. So statistical inference, if you are going to talk about, statistical inference is the act of generalizing from a sample to a population with calculated degree of certainty. And we have seen that population parameter is there, then sample is there, and data statistics is there, and using statistics calculate in the sample. So this is something which is there, and this is another way of interpreting the chart. We have population as a whole, and now we are going and taking the sample, and from there what we have done, the inferential statistics and the probability is there, and what these probability is doing, it's moving in a feedback mode. So if the data we have taken is not going to solve the purpose, we explore the information and go for more number of data. So that is where the percentage need to be done, that from population we take the information. So what I mean to say, the purpose is very clear, that when you take a sample, it's not like that that you have taken a sample and you will stop working on that. So if you talk in the present scenario, if you talk in the current trend, is that the sample need to be taken in a routine manner. So it's a routine affair, it's a regular affair. It's not like that you have taken extract the information from the population and you have now just stop yourself and not able to extract the information in future. So after certain time, what happened when the respondents not able to reciprocate and we are not in a position to get the information, so in that case we have to enhance our sample size. So this is called exactly the different way of methods of sampling. And if we talk more about the snowball sampling, which is part of non-random sampling or the non-probability sampling, which emphasize that if the respondents not able to reciprocate, in that case you have no choice but to follow the multi-level model or the reference model, where you will ask the respondents to give you some clue or some more respondents, and on the basis of that you reach to that respondents, and this could be the way, and from that respondents you ask some more respondents, so the chain is going to be work. So this is called the referral chain, and this referral chain is going to talk more about the snowball sampling. So this is one of the methods which need to be done where respondents are not able to reciprocate, and you have no choice but to ask the respondents to give some more references. So anyway, we will talk more about all those aspects in a coming session. So what are the reasons for sampling in research? To bring the population to a manageable number, to reduce cost, to help in minimizing error from the dependence due to large number in the population, and sampling helps the researchers to meet up the challenges of time. So there are essentials of a good sample. A sample must represent a true picture of the population from which it is drawn. A sample must be unbiased by the sampling procedures. A sample must be taken at random so that every member of the population of data has an equal chance of selection. A sample must be sufficiently large but as economical as possible. A sample must be accurate and complete. It should not leave any information incomplete and should include all the respondents' units or items included in the sample. An adequate sample size must be taken considering the degree of precision required in the results of inquiry. So sample size determination is the act of choosing a number of observations or replicates to include a statistical sample. The sample size is an important feature of any empirical study in which the goal is to make inferences about a population from a sample, and sample size refers to the number of participants or observations included in a study. And if you talk more about the size of a sample influence the precision of or estimates and the power of study to draw conclusions. So if you see this particular image, you will find out that that small and big sample, how it is going to be distinguished, and sample size is small, what is going to happen that you are not in a position to get a overlapping result. So if sample size is better, what exactly the scene is. So this is a way by which you are going to distinguish between small and big sample size, and how to determine minimal sample size, because end of the day, if your sample size is small, your cost is going to be levied less, and in that case, you are in a very good stage to accomplish the task in a faster mode, in a very short span. That is also a task which is required, because when you do the research, when you do the inferential statistics, I think there are certain time frame which had been allocated to the researchers. So if you are going to accomplish the task in the prescribed time frame, I think somewhere you have win the battle. And if you are not going to accomplish the task, in that case what happened, that there is chances that redundancy is going to be there, because if you are going to do the research after 3-4 years, after 5 years, and the prescribed time frame is 3 years, I think after 3 years majority of things become redundant, and you are not in a position to justify yourself. So in that case you have no choice but to enhance the sample, or somewhere you have to twist the research phenomena. So determination of sample size for specific situations are readily obtained through the selection and application of the appropriate mathematical equation. All that is needed to determine the minimum sample size. So if the data are continuous or discrete, if the population is finite or infinite, what confidence level desired or specified, the magnitude of maximum allowable error due to bias, dispersion and non-reproductivity, and the likelihood of occurrence of a specific event. So this is something which is there. How much sample size is enough to represent our entire population? We will take some scenarios. If you are running a banner in online advertising and want to know which banner will perform better, what you do you infer from running entire campaign, or you decide on sample size and find which banner will perform better? So if you talk about the scenario 2, you are a pharmaceutical research scientist and you would like to know beforehand how many minimum candidate subject people you would like to consider during a clinical trial to test whether your innovative medicine has some effect or not. So what I mean to say that there is no thumb rule, there is no rocket science which can say that for this particular the research, for this particular the thought, this could be the sample size. It's all depends how you're going to do the literature review, how you're going to do the research, and how you're going to find out the gap, because it varies from circumstances to circumstances, or rather we can say jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So what we have observed, that some research which are quite viable in some circumstances, but in some area you find out that these research become redundant. So it's all depends how you are going to take the research, and in which context you are taking. So all those things are quite important. So one research could become the redundant for one of the jurisdictions, while other research is quite useful or become a hot cake when you are going to apply in the particular circumstances. So there are certain excerpts from the scenario. So if we talk about the scenario 1, you notice the question is how much sample is big enough to decide on which banner perform better, and similarly how minimum people candidates required test your medicine so that you can find out if your medicine has some effect respectively. So in both the cases, either you are collecting data or acquiring people subject candidate for your trial, there is a cost factor associated, and it's increase your data, people increase in other hand. So if you consider less sample data, then there is chance that your inference is by chance. So that is where the things are going to be done. And what exactly the sample size could be? Is there any rocket science? Because what I have talked about, that it's all varies from circumstances. A small part of whole of population is called sample. Sample size determination is the act of choosing the number of observations or replicates to include a statistical sample. Determination of sample size is very important in statistical analysis, because you are applying the assumptions, you are working on the assumptions, you are going through hypothesis, and this hypothesis purely talks about assumptions. So if you are having a right way of going through assuming the things, I think you lands up at a very good conclusion. So no doubt there are certain variations which is there. So sample size varies from study to study based on the complication of the topic. So why sample size is important? The major factor affecting the power of study are the sample size. A study should only be undertaken once there is a realistic chance that the study will yield useful information. A study that has a sample size which is too small may produce inconclusive results and could also be considered unethical by exposing human subjects or lab animals to needless risk. A study that is too large will waste scarce resource and could expose more participants than necessary to any related task. Thus, an appropriate determination of the sample size used in the study is a crucial step in the design of a study. So, if we are going to compare small sample versus large sample, normally a sample is considered as small if its size is 30 or less, whereas samples with size exceeding 30 is considered as a large sample. So all the tests under consideration may be classified into two categories: exact test and approximation test. And if we talk more about the exact tests are those tests that are based on the exact sampling distribution of the test statistics, and no approximation is made about the form of parent population or the sampling distribution of the test statistics. Since exact tests are valid for any sample size and usually cost as well as labor increases with an increase in sample size, we prefer to take small samples for conducting exact tests. So hence the exact tests are also known as small sample tests, and it may be noted that while testing the population mean on the basis of a random sample from a normal distribution, we apply exact test or a sample test provided the population standard deviation is known. So this was demonstrated in a previous video, and we have seen that how the exact test differs from the approximation test. And the Fisher exact test is a test for independence in a 2x table. It is most useful when the total sample size and the expected values are small and the output consists of more than one p-value. And we have seen that the Fisher exact test, if we are going to talk about, is more talking about this thing. So facts and figures. So Fisher exact test is a statistical significance test used in the analysis of contingency table, and parametric tests, which we have already talked about, are those described in exact statistics, and exact tests use this terminology. So when the results in principle, however, it could also mean that a parametric test has been employed in a situation where all parametric assumptions are fully met, but it is in most cases impossible to prove the completely. So if we throw a light on approximation test two common tests of the hypothesis that our population mean equals a particular value, and of the hypothesis that two population means are equal, the Z test and the T test. So they are based on approximations to the probability distribution of the test statistics when the null hypothesis, so their significance level are not exactly what they claim to be there. So why we use small sample? Because why is sample size good? Why small sample size good? Because it is often better to test a new research hypothesis, and what we have said that the cost is quite less when you are having a small sample size. This avoids spending too many resources, for example subjects, time and financial cost, on finding association between a factor and disorder when there really is no effect. So why we use large sample? When we perform a statistical task, we are trying to judge the validity of the null hypothesis. We are doing so with an incomplete view of the population. So the larger the sample size, the bigger our window, and however with a full view of population, there is always a chance that our sample will lead to us to the wrong conclusion. So the tests based on large samples are called the large samples, and here the tests are based on the normal distribution, because sampling distribution of large sample is n is greater than or equal to 30 approaches normal distribution. So there are certain side effects of large samples. So more samples will require more resource, which we have already talked about, and the cost is also going to be involved, such as longer evaluation time and higher cost. While having the right sample, and if I run a hypothesis test, there is a possibility that we will detect a smaller difference, which may result in a statistical significant difference generated by your software, but that has no practical significance. So when there is a use of long sample if chosen small, say we collect 30 parts of test whether a particular machine setting affects a parametric measurement, but based on the sample size calculation we need at least 50 parts. So if we collect the results and run a hypothesis test, there is a possibility that we may not detect the difference or expected change that we want to. So there is a difference between large sample and small sample. The test is based on sample size more than or equal to 30 is called large sample test. If the test is based on sample size below 30 is called as a small sample test. For large sample, the sampling distribution of statistics are normal Z test, and for small sampling samples, the sampling distributions are T, F and X square distribution. The value of a statistics obtained from the sample can be taken as an estimate of the population parameter. If we more talk about this, and the value of statistics obtained from the sample cannot be from the sample as an estimate for the population parameter. So the test is based on sample size more than equal to 30 is called the large sample test, and for large sample the sampling distribution of statistics are normal Z test. So anyway, I think what we have noted that if you pass or fail criteria that you want to use to evaluate your process, this will require you to use much larger sample compared to a continuous metric, which will be therefore more expensive. So by that I am going to sum up this particular session, which is much more focused on how you're going to choose the large sample or small sample as far as the testing is concerned, as far as the hypothesis testing is concerned, because when you're going to test the hypothesis, I think that is where you have to very clearly define yourself that you are below 30 or you are above 30. And if you are above 30, you can go for the Z test. If you are below 30, you can apply the T test or other tests which are applicable there. So I think this is somewhere in our preceding session we have much focus on sampling, and then in the coming session we are more talking or emphasizing on the large sample and small sample, so that we can have an idea that how we can take a sample and then we can start our inferential statistics to work on that. Thank you very much. We have some more thought-provoking sessions in a coming days, which will much more emphasize on how we are going to test the hypothesis or do the statistics in a more statistical manner. Thank you very much.